Alright, so let's take this simple plot of land, just plain old lawn like a lot of people have, and turn it into something that gives back to us. Now, like my dad said, there's a right tool for everything, so let's look at what you're going to need.
You're going to need some stakes, or sticks if you're vegan, some rope or twine, a shovel, a hoe, a cultivator, and a rake, and some seeds. Well, nobody's perfect. It's always a good idea to survey the land so you can see where you want everything to be placed. But don't just look down, look up too. See where the sun rises and sets. That'll tell you how hot it's going to get for your little vegetables. Take your stakes or sticks and put them around the perimeter of your garden. It's always a good idea to get low. This will allow you to get it as straight as possible. Once the stakes are in place, start wrapping the twine around it. This is going to create a perfect template for you to begin digging. Make adjustments if need be. Whoop, ran out of rope. No bother, I got some more. Well, as the pirates say, that's looking pretty yar. Get down low and take one last little look-see at your twine and stakes. Make sure they're good 90-degree angles on all four corners. Then, using your shovels, slowly start tracing the perimeter of your garden. Slowly working your way inward, step by step.
Alright, so right now we just busted up the soil. And that's just giving us enough room to start doing my favorite part. So, this is a hoe, don't laugh. But basically the idea of the hoe is once you've dug up with your shovel like I showed you before, you get inside there and you really break up the earth. And this will make it easier for the next step as a cultivator. See, we got a root there, and we just now busted that up. And the great thing about the hoe is it has this spade on the back end. So let's say I dig way down, well, I can always push it right back. So a lot of how the old timers do is they go through and they'll push everything back into place. All right, I think that's enough hoeing. So this is one of my favorite tools. It's a cultivator, and this actual design is the exact same it's been since the 1600s. So it's a very old tool. So the technique with the cultivator is to stop and drag across the soil. And you're putting all that oxygen back inside the soil, and you're digging up stuff like rocks and stuff that then you can throw out of your garden. And you're picking up all those weeds, picking up all that dead grass, and just really giving it the best shot so little tiny seeds can pop up. You might have noticed during the time lapse I brought my trusty wheelbarrow on here. Wheelbarrows were invented by the Chinese, just so you know. And what we're doing is we're just getting rid of all those grass and all that excess top layer we don't really need. So get your wheelbarrow or get buckets, anything you can, just to move as much of those weeds out of there because they will keep going up. Your entire life with having a garden, you're always going to be fighting weeds. All right, time for the last step. We've got all of it cultivated, we've hoed. Now it's time to just pick off that top layer of weeds and get rid of them. We're going to use the rake. So this one's kind of like putting a seat buckle on. You better know how to do it. So all it is simple, the idea of raking. And look how we're making everything more unified. We're getting down to the top core, getting all that soil loose. And this is what's going to make the garden look the most beautiful. And we want to get it as straight and as flat as possible. All right, well, we did everything. dug up the soil. Now we got a beautiful plot of land to plant plenty of beautiful little seeds. And I'm going to show you how to do that. But all these rocks over here gave me an idea, so I figured I'd start tinkering. So just sit back and watch and enjoy. I'll do more of an advanced video explaining exactly what I'm doing. But I figured if I'm already here, I might as well get it done. Enjoy. So I found all this scrap lumber laying around and it gave me an idea. And for this little advanced session, you're gonna need a screwdriver, you're gonna need some screws, you're gonna need a level. And if you don't got a level, well, we're gonna do it the old-fashioned way with a glass of water.
Basically, I'm using my 4x4 blocks as posts for my timber. The same rules could apply to make a box or a table.
If you don't have a level at home, you can always use a glass of water. Let me show you how. This is how they've done it forever. Water always finds level. So right now I can see she's dipping down that way. I want her to be straight. So what I'll do is I'll just take some rocks and I'll put it underneath there. And I'll take another one. And check your level. Not quite yet. We might have to move her around a bit. So what we'll do is we'll push it out. And then right there's about pretty cool, right?
Now that she's on the level, we can commence dry stone stacking, an ancient way of stacking stones. We're using no concrete, that's why it's dry. It allows the structure to move with the earth, giving it a shelf life of, say, a couple thousand years, minus the timber. Now here's where us millennial gardeners really have a step up on our ancestors. I found these old pavers and I thought we'd play a little Tetris.
Well, we did the stone stacking, and you know, a lot of people, they get real upset when they dig up stones inside their garden. Well, me, I jump with joy. But now we got to do the final step and what we've all been waiting for, the planting of the seeds. You thought we were done with the ropes and the sticks. Well, not quite. We might need a little more. Do you remember how I told you it's always important to remember where the sun rises and sets? Well, that has a lot to do with where you're going to plant which vegetables. So where the sun rises, you want to put your smallest vegetables, and then where the sun sets, you want to put your tallest vegetables. So here I'll do my beets, there I'll do my lettuce, and well, one of the greatest things about using a stick, is you can take the stick and actually break it into pieces, so you can get the right size. Here, just take it. You can take the right size. So a beet needs about that much space. So what I can do is I can space my seeds by giving it the space of that stick. You know? So let's start off with the first row. It's a bad idea to have a dog and sticks in the garden. Now, time for the rope. People ask me, how do you get the lines so straight in your garden? Well, it's just this. Just take your rope, put it in, and that's your first line, okay? So now let's start seeding. Now remember, you can always look at the back packet and it's going to tell you what the row spacing is and the plant spacing. That's the recommended depth of sowing depth is 2 centimeters, okay? So remember that. And then take that, do about 2 centimeters, drop a seed in. And sometimes it's a good idea to take 2 seeds and drop 2 seeds in at a time, because that way you can call which one's the weaker, and it gives you insurance that you're going to have one there. All right, so we're bringing back out the hoe. And the reason is we're going to plant onions and carrots together. The carrots and the onions actually grow well together because the onions keep the bugs off the carrots. So they're very small seeds, so you only have to dig inside the soil a little bit. Now, using the rope as a guide, just slowly bring back your area. And we're gonna sow these seeds directly into the ground. And this is one of the oldest and probably the most classical, beautiful version of farming. It's where you see the farmer walk across the land and throw them seeds into the earth. It's kind of a spiritual thing. This is just that beautiful connection. And each one of these is a hope and a prayer that they'll grow. Next up are these beautiful little tiny pieces of lettuce. Now, I started these a couple, maybe 5 or 6 days ago, and this is where they're at. They're a little young for it, but I'm gonna take my chances just to get them inside the ground. You might have remembered my last video, Fundamentals of Planting. You wanna check that out because there I taught you how to pre-start your plants in their little nursery pots. Now they're ready to be moved up and put inside the ground. These are some very young pieces of lettuce. So you want to be really gentle with them when you pull them out. Try to get as much of the root untacked as you can. See that right there? Here's one of the most hardiest and rewarding vegetables to grow, kale. So same sort of thing, be really gentle. These are some pups. Take them out. And I like planting without using traditional measurements because I always like to think, what did our Neolithic ancestors, when they first figured out that they could cultivate, how would have they done it? And I think there's something spiritual about like not abiding by the rules of society. It's a bit of rebellious gardening, not to use the exact measurements. It's an experiment, you see. And that's the funny thing, the plants will tell you what they need more than anything on the back of a paper could. Well, we did it. And all we need is a little bit of soil and seeds. You don't need all the bells and whistles, but sun, water, and love is what makes things grow. And it's always good to cheers the garden. Now, this might seem ridiculous, but what I'm actually doing is I'm creating a better environment for spores and mushrooms to grow. So remember, christen your garden with a little bit of beer. Cheers, everyone. And thanks for watching Planted. I'm Logan Huffman. I'll see you soon.